Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Linda. Morning, Rick.
Scott, you in your car? Hi, Ellen. Hi, Marion. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Rosalie.
Hey, Scott, congratulations on your upcoming award.
Oh, thank you very much. It's humbling.
Well deserved.
Mazel tov. Hi, Miriam.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Miriam.
Morning, Linda. How are you?
Fine. I got your letter. It was lovely.
I wanted to at least write notes to people thanking them, but
Hi, Miriam. Hi, everybody.
hi, Brian.
Hi,
Good
Brian.
morning.
How's everyone doing? Hey, Ellen, I was gonna, now that I'm on a minute early, I was gonna call on you maybe to give an update on whatever happened with the loan fund that you guys were talking about and the kind of conversation you, JFS and Federation had and whatever it's gonna end up looking like.
Sure.
Or
You
somebody,
okay with that, Miriam?
Of course.
somebody can, or collectively you guys can do it. I don't care.
We are working collectively. It's okay.
That's exactly what we love to see. Hello, everybody.
But Ellen, you're going to report, right? Even though we're working collectively.
Yes, I will report. I will be our mouthpiece this
Thank
morning.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, now that you're on a beach, why not?
Yeah, I wish. Next week it'll be real. This week it's fake.
Oh, where are you going?
Here you
You're
go.
going to the beach? Where are you going?
No, I have a condo in Fort Lauderdale that I haven't seen in 18 months
Oh,
because of
God.
hurricanes and COVID. And we decided if I can work remotely from here, I can work remotely from there.
Man.
Uh-huh.
You have your
At least I'll be able
eye
to go out and take a
goggles
walk.
and Darth Vader mask for the plane and everything.
Oh, I got a face shield and a mask. and hand sanitizer. I got it all.
Good.
And her rabbi's coming with her to give blessings on the way, right?
So, I mean, my husband's driving. I'm flying.
Have
Doing
a
every-
wonderful trip.
Thank
Full
you.
hazmat suit, top to
I
bottom.
don't have that. Not quite. Not quite.
Those are hard to
Hi,
come by,
Stacy.
Stacy.
Have you
One
tried?
of my,
Brian?
one of
Have
my
you tried to get
neighbors, one of my neighbors was a doctor in town, had told me 2 weeks ago, there has yet to be a proven case of COVID transmission from an airplane. Now, it doesn't mean the airport. of course.
Port, exactly.
You just got to watch it in the airports or where you got to watch it. But in the airplane, due to the air changes, my daughter flew to and from Boston. She wore 2 masks and a face shield. I'm like, okay, you know.
And it
all
worked.
good.
But I will say, if I needed a hazmat suit, I'd turn to Scott Biondo to find it for me.
That's right. I get you one.
There you go.
All the benefits of these calls. You never know what's going to happen.
That's right.
All right. Well, we're knocking the door at the normal 10:02, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Scott, if you're driving, don't look at your phone. Hopefully you're
I'm stopped.
Oh, good. Because you doing an unsafe thing would seem
Yeah, that sort of defeats the purpose.
hard to lead by example, that way. So great to see you all. Hope you all had as great a Thanksgiving as you could. I know for us, instead of 30, we had about 6 on the driveway. It's kind of cold, but that's what portable heaters help with. Hanukkah's coming up. Oh, geez, next week. Time to start shopping for the missus. Didn't know if anybody had any questions for me. Well, it's great to see you all. More people seem to be joining, so I'll pop it over to Brian and we'll get rolling.
So we didn't have anything specific on the agenda. We're going to let David talk for a second. Then Mindy is going to give an update on what's going on this morning in Israel with the Ethiopian arrival for just a second, give an update. And then I asked, last time we met, there was a conversation going on that started with Ellen and NCJW about funds available for Jewish communal professionals, which is kind of morphed a little and taken on a collaborative nature with the funds that are available through JFS. So we'll have them give an update around that too. And then anything that anybody wants to talk about. But David, since you're here, you want to let us know what's going on in the world?
Yeah, I mean, the world is moving forward, apparently, as we're reading in the newspapers. So we've got about 7 or 8 days left before Congress goes on vacation or Christmas break. They're trying to get them out 14 days before Christmas break so they can quarantine if they want to and spend Christmas with their families. And so that gives them a kind of a drop dead date of December 14. There is continued movement on this $900 billion package, which would include $160 billion for state and local governments, as well as some elementary and secondary education money. We're also seeing movement on the vaccine. Obviously folks are reading that the Britain has given approval, and it looks like we expect the US to give approval to Pfizer on December 10th, and then Moderna December 14 or 15 is their scheduled meeting. So that's moving forward as well. The other interesting thing for those that are on the call is it looks like we're going to be bringing back earmarks in DC after a very long hiatus, something that the Jewish community has utilized for things like NORC and others. So potentially something that's very interesting for us as we move forward. Legislature is getting ready to meet. For those that are in St. Louis County and other places, there is a kind of a legislative assault on Sam Page right now in the St. Louis County about issuing these stay-at-home orders as well as mandates. And so there's some real grumbling by some on the right about the ability for the county executives to utilize that kind of authority. I don't expect a lot of things to pass on something like that, but that's out there. The other thing that we're seeing in the legislature being filed, just so you all know, is a whole bunch of anti-vaccine bills, which of course in this period of COVID is amazing, but we're seeing kind of a real assault, and unfortunately some of the folks that are leading that charge are actually healthcare professionals, which is a little sad. And so this is going to further make it more difficult for folks to want to get the vaccine. We're already seeing the numbers drop off of people that are willing to get it. So just so y'all know, kind of that's coming. That's going to be out there just as a larger public policy conversation moving forward. From the state perspective, they are spending the money that was received in COVID-3, and they're doing it by spending it on general revenue related items like salaries for correction workers, salaries for health. And that's going to free up a bunch of general revenue in order to balance the SFY 2022 budget, which we're headed into here. And the other positive thing for our nonprofits, especially those that have utilized unemployment comp, is that we're going to use probably $400 million to push into the unemployment comp fund. That's down from $1 billion reserve down to $400 million. That's going to reduce the amount of money required from non-participatory employers, non-tax employers, which is most of our nonprofit community. So that should have some positive impacts on our nonprofits as they are asked to send in a chunk of unemployment benefits that were paid out for those that are non-insured employers. Ryan, that's about all I've got. Probably more than anybody wanted to know.
Maybe not. Does anybody have any questions? Actually, is someone from the light on right now?
Ellen's on.
Was there, David actually was just talking for a second about an increase in the number of people who aren't considering getting the vaccine. Is there any plan in any way to run a series or have some information about the importance of vaccinations and that kind of stuff in the light?
Ellen, are you there? Hi, I'm the business side. I
Oh,
think.
sure. I see. Oh, right. Ellen's on now, although she's muted.
Ellen,
She may
So
have stepped away.
it sounds like the answer is maybe yes. Oh, there she is. Ellen?
Me, Ellen?
Ellen Futterman. Yeah.
Yes,
Yep, you
Ellen Futterman, right here.
Yes. So I was just asking, David had just said that, that there's an increase in the number of people who are saying that they're potentially not interested in getting the vaccine. Is there any plan by the light to kind of maybe address that and the importance of it?
Yes, we are working on that story right now.
Great.
Yeah, and we are actually going to do a special, what we call B section. We were thinking about doing it on COVID a year later and timing it in March, but with the vaccine, we really feel the need to move that up. So we're looking at January for that, like a huge section where we go back in and talk to some of the people we talked to back at last March, and as well as obviously new information.
Great.
Your
Okay.
face, so you know where it's
There's
coming
the
from.
face. All right. Thank you. I mean, I think, right. Well, anyway, does
Yeah,
anybody?
and if anybody has any suggestions of, I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if
Please,
anyone has
go.
any suggestions of good people to speak with as well, please do, reach out to me, email me, give me a call. I'm in the office every day, so you can just call my office number.
Ellen, we
Alan?
represent BJC. If it's helpful, we might be able to get somebody from there to talk to you.
That's great. They did before, but yeah, I would love to bring some new people into the fold, and obviously people from our community. So any help with that you all could give me, I would be most appreciated.
Ellen, are you guys connected with Carol Baskin, who's been on this call a couple times, talk about stuff?
Yeah, from the county, yes, not
Great.
the animal trainer, yes.
Yes, correct. Yes. Either one, quite frankly. Okay. Anybody, so it would be much more interesting if you had.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions for David about that or anything else that you're hearing about or anything? Yeah, Alan.
So not specific to David, but this came up on another call I was on this morning about companies requiring mandatory vaccines in order to return to work. And I didn't know if anybody was even talking about that. I know health care organizations and maybe those that deal with seniors may have different policies with regard to that than all the rest of us, but I just wanted to throw it out there as a question. And if anyone had any comments or anything they wanted to share on that.
Only that we've been asking and looking into that same question. Well, and not only employees, but members.
And I think it's also important to raise the issue. Sorry, it's Carney, I'm in my car, but around early childhood centers and students and schools coming back, do people have to get vaccinated in order to be accepted to programs?
Interesting.
Nobody's hearing anything at all yet, too soon?
I think they have to determine the legal ramifications of, like, can you require it or not?
You
If
absolutely can in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, so I
Because
mean,
it was all over the news yesterday locally that because Missouri, and David, you may know more about this, but we probably ought to get an attorney to talk, an employment attorney to talk about it, but that because we are an at-will employee state and you can be fired for any reason or no reason at all, that individual businesses can mandate vaccinations in order to work there.
Yeah, I believe that is correct, Ellen. And what I can tell you though, on a practical level, I'm not so sure that's going to happen because of the backlash that folks will expect. I can tell you, I represent a small natural gas company, and we've been on calls with the other players like Ameren, Inspire, and those folks. And this has come up several times in relation to kind of the folks that are actually working on lines, essential workers, the people that are going to do power outages.
Mhm.
And there is no utility company other than actually ours that was even considering doing a mandate on a vaccine.
Well, then as a follow-up question, David, the other thing I heard on this call this morning is that when someone is getting vaccinated,
Mhm.
either the doctor or the drug company is going to be issuing them a card that is proof that they were vaccinated, that they will be able to carry around with them. Do you know you heard about that?
I mean, I have not heard anything from Pfizer on that. I can ask. I mean, that
I was just wondering.
You know, folks, I would think that availability and distribution would have a significant impact on that as well. I mean, if it's not available, it wouldn't make any sense at all to mandate it if we just can't get it. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of factors, I think, that play into that.
Yeah, Scott, I think that you're exactly right. And as this thing is tiered, I mean, the real issue, at least in a state like Missouri, is going to be the vaccine is going to get to a place. whether that's the CVS or it's the hospital. What happens once it gets to the place is going to be all about what the local communities do to implement and deploy the vaccine. Now, there will be other states that will do something very different. They'll have a centralized deployment strategy and all this other stuff. We do not. And so I think that this is going to be extremely complicated. And, you know, honestly, in the next 2 months, December and January, it's going to be a pretty small number of vaccines. I'd be surprised, you know, if we saw 40 to 50 million people vaccinated, which would be 80 to 100 million vaccines. They're talking about before the end of the year having 20 million people vaccinated, meaning 40 million doses between the two companies.
Yep.
And Ellen, we were asking that same question on a totally different level. You know, we were saying, how does somebody prove that they're an essential worker? So when I go into the CVS, the person that works for the gas company that actually repairs the broken line is an essential worker. He's pretty important to have that person out there. And so how's that person going to show CVS, oh yes, I'm eligible for this vaccine? It's easy with nursing homes. You know, you go to a nursing home and you inoculate everybody, or you go to the hospital and the hospital has their roster. But we have gotten no feedback on that. So we're not sure once you get past kind of the healthcare services sector, how anybody's going to show I'm a 1B or I'm a 2A or whatever it is, beyond institutional players.
So David, then as a follow-up to that, you're telling us that there's going to be no centralized coordination from the state, and it's going to be up to the, because welcome to Missouri, that it's going to be up to the local elected officials. So Sam Page, whose wings are getting clipped every day by the county council, his departments will be responsible in St. Louis County for distribution?
So the plan that was deployed by, so every state had to have a plan to the federal government on October 16th for vaccination. Like, what are you going to do as a state to make sure this gets to the right place? So Missouri's plan, and I can send that to anybody that wants it, it's not very useful, but Missouri's plan essentially talks about having regional implementation teams that will work in conjunction with a state implementation team. Of course, we don't exactly know what these people do. We know who's on it. And so, you know, there will be 8 or 9, it's lines up with congressional districts, I think, 8 regional implementation teams. The state just put out a request for application for anybody that wanted to run those. There's $100,000 a pop for each one of them. And in theory, they're going to be the ones that are supposed to kind of point at where these things are supposed to go. But, you know, the complications around, and this is something we've talked about on this call, if this was a one and done vaccine, this would be a lot less complicated, but it's not. And so, you know, the idea that David Winton is 1B, I go in because I'm a, you know, maybe I'm a first responder or whatever. I go in and get my vaccine. I need another vaccine if it's Pfizer 3 weeks later, if it's Moderna 4 weeks later. If I get it 5 weeks later on the Pfizer side, it's not any good. It just invalidated the first dose. And so the way the state is saying we're going to remind you is we're going to send postcards, which is the traditional vaccine system. When kids go to school, you know, before your kid goes to school, you get a postcard that says, don't forget rubella vaccine and bring it in, right? And then the school checks it and says, oh, by the way, you didn't get it. They're going to do it the same way. They're going to use Show Me Vax, which is kind of the state system, to try and remind you to get the vaccine. We know that doesn't work at all. Right? There is no centralized system to basically, when Dave Winton goes and gets the vaccine, I scan a QR code with my smartphone, which everybody has. That QR code then knows that I just got this vaccine. This is my deadline to come back. Then CVS, the pharmacy that I got the vaccine at, they know that I'm supposed to be back in 3 weeks. So there's an information process and reminder system that's set up. So, you know, for 5 days, I see on my smartphone every day, it comes up and says, don't forget to get your vaccine, stupid. You know, make sure you get there and get that vaccine. And CVS knows I'm coming. And so that way they can track and say, the other complication is people are going to get headaches. They're going to get fevers from this thing. They're going to have some adverse reactions. You know, we're not going to vaccinate 200 million people across the United States without some adverse reactions. They have to be able to communicate those adverse reactions. Well, if you had an app, you could do that. In our current system, the feds are saying that we can use their system. It's going to be an absolute mess. And I'm not sure any state is going to really do it right. You know, let's be honest about that. But we are definitely not going to do it right.
All right, I'm going to take executive privilege here and say, are there any other questions or things that people want to explore or talk about? I'll bring up. Thank you, David. I think we obviously are all going to live through this. And part of what we collectively can do is help communicate clear, concise, appropriate information. That's why I'm really appreciative of the light being on here as well, but all of us have constituencies and really broad communication mechanisms. And so there will be an opportunity to do that if organizations choose to. All right, let's move on to the next couple of things, and then we'll have a period of open time for anybody to share, bring up anything they want. Mindy, did you? I hope everybody's. Well, I'll let Mindy talk it through. I hope everybody's aware. Yeah.
So if you are not aware, I have an amazing story to share on the global Jewish front. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Ethiopian immigration story to Israel. To me, it is one of the most beautiful, amazing, challenging, and miraculous stories of our people. Over the past 40 years, the government of Israel and the Jewish Agency for Israel have brought nearly 100,000 Ethiopian Jews to Israel, which is just amazing. And if you look at what happened in the 80s and the 90s, these operations were incredible. There are still thousands of Ethiopians in camps in Gondar and Addis Ababa, waiting to be reunited with their families in Israel. So earlier this year, the Israeli government approved bringing over 2,000 of those Ethiopians to Israel in the coming months. And early this morning, the first flight landed with 316 Ethiopians. Another flight is landing tomorrow. And then there will be a number of additional flights to bring those 2,000 over in the coming months. And hopefully they'll be able to then quickly address the remaining thousands of Ethiopians who are waiting. And some of them have been in these camps 20 or 30 years waiting to be reunited with their families. So it's really a touching and incredible story. And there's amazing pictures, there's stories online. I am fascinated with this topic. I've done so much research. So if anybody's interested in hearing more about it, happy to speak with you. But just wanted to make sure that you all knew this is what's happening in the global Jewish world, and it really is amazing and truly a miracle.
I see a couple claps and stuff. Any questions or anything? I mean, this is right. The reunification of the Jewish people is one of the reasons why Israel was founded. It is one of the ways that you can come into Israel without any questions. It is part of the reason for the state to have come into existence and for being. So this is a continuation of that. I think that probably some of us kind of think, how many more other groups of Jews can there be in other countries to bring to Israel? And then every time there's something else that pops up. But are there any questions about anything anybody wanted to ask?
No, but Mindy, Ellen and I will reach out because we haven't, I don't know if everybody knows, the Light started a newsletter just about Israel news. And that would be a great story for that.
Great.
Everybody should subscribe. There's good stories in there all the time.
The one thing I'll add for a St. Louis connection is we have a really unique relationship with the Ethiopian community because there are so many Ethiopians that are living in Yokneam, which is our partnership community in Israel. And so a lot of the welfare support that we invest in Yokneam is specifically helping the Ethiopian community there. I think Nikki had a question, Marion had a question.
How many are waiting in the camps in total?
So that's a great question, and I wish I could give you a clear answer. There's not a clear answer because it's a tribal community. So I heard this incredible story from a Jewish agency representative who was there meeting with a family who was waiting to be reunited. And they met with the family, and it was 2 parents and 5 children. And they met and they said, come back tomorrow. And the family came back the next day, and it was 2 parents and 7 children. And they said, wait a minute, you were here yesterday with 5 children. They said, no, these are our cousins. It's their family too. They live in the village and they need to come over also. So there's not clear numbers. I've heard anywhere between, I think, 8 and 10,000 total. Marion?
I don't know if anyone is aware, but traditional congregation for, I think it's about 29 or 30 years now, in cooperation with North American Conference on Ethiopian Jewry, has adopted Ethiopian college students. And we raise money to help fund their expenses, because generally their college tuition is taken care of for the most part, but they need additional expense money. So we generally adopt 3-4 students at a time. And when one of them graduates, we adopt a new one. It is an absolutely fabulous program. The students are incredibly bright and motivated and so appreciative of our help. My husband was in Israel a couple of years ago on a sabbatical and met with a couple of the students that we had at that time. They graduate and go on to become lawyers and accountants and just do wonderful things. And it's just a really fabulous program that we have.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that, Marion.
Okay. Anything else on the Ethiopian stuff? Keep watching the news. Obviously, this is going to be a developing story, and there'll be more great pictures and stories coming out in the weeks and months ahead about those reunifications and stuff.
Hey, Brian, just to note that we do have a few Ethiopian Jews here in St. Louis, of course. And I don't know if it might be appropriate. I know Light's going to do a story, I would imagine, maybe to interview some of those folks. But we have a number of Ethiopian Jewish families in our congregation and probably in some others here as well.
I will be reaching out.
Thanks.
Okay. The other thing that I mentioned briefly is a couple weeks ago when we last met, Ellen, you had brought up a loan fund for Jewish professionals, and I think that some things have adjusted and changed since then. Do you want to share what's been going on?
Sure. So right before Thanksgiving, I guess, Miriam and Lori Cabron-Barry and I met to talk about resources that are available to the Jewish community, but also to the staff, to the professionals that work in the Jewish community. And we're going to be putting together some materials and getting them out to all of you probably January, after the first of the year for sure, that outlines these resources so that your staffs can take advantage of them. There are interest-free loans and there are very low interest loans depending. And we're kind of gathering all the information, putting it all in one place, and we will send it out to all of you to share with your staffs. In addition, for those of you that are in congregations and places like that, these loans are also available to members of your congregations. And so we just want to make sure people know that this resource is out there for them. And so we're going to work together and we're going to put together a kind of a general information sheet about what's available in each place and how you go about applying for it. And it's another resource, and we hope that it's something that as executives, you will all share with your staffs and your members and the folks that you serve, because we think it's really important. And in this time when people are being furloughed and you never know what's happening with your staff, if a partner got furloughed or got laid off or lost their job or whatever, a loan, a $500 loan or $1,000 loan or a $2,000 loan can make a huge difference in their lives at this point in time. And so we want to make sure that everybody's aware that that exists. So we are working together to put something out, so more to come.
Ellen, do they have to be not working right now to get the loan though?
So the rules and regs are different for the different types of loans. So we're going to look at that. So for the NCJW loans, if they're not working, we're okay with that. But our loans are a much smaller amount. For the JFS loans, the requirements vary and it'll depend on individual circumstances. Because it could very well be that they're not working, but their spouse is working and that they have an ability to pay it back.
Like we have someone who had to take an extended sick leave during all this. And but now she's working again. So, but she's in trouble. you know, that
I
kind of
add,
stuff.
Betsy, that, I'm sorry, Ellen, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Miriam.
Ellen always reinforces beautifully that there are reasons to take out loans like building credit back up and things like that. But it's also important to know that in situations where a loan doesn't make sense, there's cash assistance for people who are or are not Jewish who are in situations like that. We've really lowered the barriers to people accessing that money. They don't have to answer 1,000 intrusive questions. They just have to call. So know that that's available. They can call me, they can call Pat Harris, or they can call our main number. But again, there are great reasons to access the Federation or the NCJW loans separately, but it may not make sense in that case, Betsy. So there's still lots of cash available thanks to
Thank you.
Federation.
Just worried about so many people right now.
That's why I
Right.
don't know why every day we don't have an influx, but when we get the word out, people call. So for the cash, just for cash that they don't have to repay.
So what I'm hearing, Miriam, is that maybe the communication mechanism is what's stopping. So if we could let people know in a broader way about the dollars and the opportunities that are available, that people will take advantage of it.
That
The
is,
dollars are there.
That's what we're hoping. We're hoping that once we put the word out, that we will see more applications for the dollars, both the loans and the grants. And Miriam did remind me on the NCJW program, we get a lot of folks that borrow just to rebuild their credit. You know, they've gotten in trouble, somebody lost a job, they couldn't make payments, their credit score dropped. We know the impact a credit score has on your ability to do a lot of different things. And so they borrow money from us, literally a $500 loan, if they pay it back in 6 months, can improve their credit scores by 150 points. So, so we do see a lot of that credit building. Now, the Federation loans are not reported to the credit companies. Our loans are. So we're going to put all the information out there so that you all have it. And, you know, feel free to certainly reach out to me. As Miriam said, reach out to her, to Pat. We are happy to, you know, do stuff long before we get the official document out to all of you. If you have employees or constituents or anyone in your network as part of the Jewish community that is in need, we would like to try and be able to help them.
Other questions or thoughts? Certainly you can reach out to Ellen and or Miriam. Is there anybody else who can help answer questions, or are those the best sources, ladies? Okay.
I think it's us. I don't know that Lori Cavernberry, she knows a lot. I don't know if she wants calls, so
It's true.
I won't speak for her. But
And she's not the direct service kind of person that you guys and your staffs are. So if people have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Certainly this will be in the minutes from the meeting as well. And it sounds like you guys are getting together a one-sheeter or whatever you want to call it, and we'll make sure to help circulate that to this group. Okay, well, that's the quote unquote formal portion of our agenda today. Is there anything that anybody wants to bring up, share, talk about? Yeah, Karen.
I just want to do a shout out early for Scott, and looking forward on Sunday night to lifting him up on a pedestal for the extraordinary work he's been doing for the community. It's part of our Distinguished Service Award. It's going to be fun and short. It may be the shortest program we ever do. And I know for many, that's a blessing. So there you are, but there may be a surprise or two in there too. So I'm hoping it's going to be fun to the extent that it is. The Concert Against Hate is still a work in progress. Deborah Messing is the host now. Adam Levine is the keynote or figurehead or whatever you call it, leading performer. With a bunch of other folks, some of whom I know, some of whom I have no clue about. But that's the musical biz, as it were, for me. So, but looking forward to all of it and to seeing Scott smile.
We're really proud of Scott and the work that he's been doing, so thank you for recognizing him. How do people, if people want to register for that event, Karen, can you put the information in the chat or whatever?
I will do that. Let me get the link. Hang on a second. I'll do that.
So somebody else should talk for a minute or two while she does that. So no, does anybody else have anything they wanted to talk about or share?
I do.
Okay.
Greg, I'm wondering if Federation is starting to plan trips to Israel again, birthright and otherwise.
That's a great question. I'm actually going to defer that to Mindy from Community Impact, or Brian, to talk about, conceptually.
Share.
What's that? Or Karen, right, sorry, Karen.
That's okay. So right now, the plan is Israel Bound is scheduled for June. That's the teen program. And we actually just received a huge, the Marcus Foundation is now investing in teens to go to Israel. So we received $160,000 from the Marcus Foundation to support the teen Israel Bound experience. So hopefully that's going in June. Other than that, we are going to be planning out, but not probably the fall. There might be a men's trip that's on the books right now. And I know Reuben Israel is hopefully planning for the fall. It's been rescheduled, but definitely not in the spring. So we're really looking to fall of 2021 or maybe summer with the teens, hopefully. And then we'll be looking at a community trip at some point in 2022.
So Betsy, I think part of the answer too is that Israel has a lot of say in this, and they have been relatively strict at times with specific countries, the United States being one, on whether or not people are allowed to enter their country. And they are in a more intense lockdown period, actually coming out of a more intense lockdown period. So I think planning is happening. And the question is going to be, how the vaccine takes, how comfortable different countries are. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about specific Israel travel, we're going to have to rely on the state to tell us when it's appropriate and okay for people to come visit. But we are starting to think about summer and fall and beyond. Go ahead, Mindy, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, in addition, for those trips that the time is important, such as the Israel and Overseas Committee that usually goes and does site visits before investment decisions are made. That won't be possible for that group to be able to go this spring. So we are looking at other ways to visit the agencies in which we invest there. We're doing virtual visits, we're doing phone calls, we're doing Zoom calls. So that's been happening a lot also. I know through the Israel Center, there have been great programs to connect with Israel, and I anticipate there will be more. So until we can go, we will continue to keep Israel in the forefront and have opportunities for people to be able to connect.
We actually do have a virtual trip happening right now called Crossroads, which is December 13th. It's a monthly, once a month trip, and it's about the crossroads of our faith. So it's looking at the three monotheistic faiths and sites, and there's gonna be a guide, and it's an hour long. It's on our website, I'm sure. We've been promoting it, so we're doing virtual Israel trips.
You don't get as much of a leg cramp because you don't have to sit still for 11 hours.
There's no jet lag.
Thank you very much. Part of that was personal interest, so appreciate it.
Great. Any other questions, topics, things we should know about, trends we should be watching for? Yes. Oh, you're muted.
Better.
You are muted.
Without further ado, and I missed the beginning, I apologize. I was picking up Hanukkah gifts to distribute. The folks in East St. Louis, Belleville and whatever, are there, I'm asking about testing sites and getting rapid tests for COVID to get approval to go on some of the planes. Does anybody know if that is better or worse than any particular locations? Are still happening at the hospitals? Where do people go?
Missouri Baptist has a drive-through. Missouri Baptist Hospital.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so Greg's Zoom just froze, although he's here.
All right, it just reset. That was weird.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anybody have anything else they want to talk about, share, ask? Guys, we have about 29 days, 28 days left in this month and this year. I know for us, it's a really busy time. For many of you, it is as well, because it's the end of the fundraising for the calendar year for some of us. But it also, for me, means that I've been here for almost a year, and I just want to thank everybody. And I hope that you are all taking care of yourself. We are certainly seeing mental emotional health issues kind of increase as the holidays come and people and the days get shorter and it's darker longer and people are thinking, when is this going to end? I contend that we are closer to the end of this thing than we are to the beginning. But while you're in the middle of it, it is really hard. So I hope all of you in your roles as individuals and certainly as professional and volunteer heads of your organizations are taking and will take the time, the appropriate time to take care of yourselves as the year winds down, even though it's busy. I appreciate every one of you and want to make sure that you are all able to do the job that is so important and so necessary for this community and for your constituencies, because it takes a village. We are a large ecosystem, and we have to rely and work with each other. So please take the time to do what you need to do, and know that if you feel like you need something more, that there are resources available, certainly through JFS. Some of the dollars from the COVID response fund that we raised went specifically to make sure that those were available. So for you, your staff, whatever it may be, please don't hesitate to take advantage of those. I don't have anything more. Greg, you're welcome to close it down.
All right, well, a good early Shabbos to everyone and an early Hanukkah. We've got Hanukkah next week. Great seeing you all. And as usual, if you have questions, need something, don't know where to turn, call us. We're here. We're here to help. And we'll see you all again soon.
Bye.